Hey guys, Philosopher here, and today I have my top war offense teams for the month of February 2022. Always one of my more popular videos, and what I do here is I walk through my tier list, which is linked below, that I try to update pretty regularly, and I talk to you guys about what I'm seeing in the meta. Now, obviously, I can only tell you what I see in the meta at sort of the high end in the leagues. In other words, the diamond. I'm in one of those, big alliances, diamond alliances, or whatever. And so, accordingly, I'm going to kind of telling you what I see amongst the wars that I'm fighting at this level, where everyone's got everything built up, and it's really a matter of where you can best use the characters. Obviously, at your level of war, it's going to be different. For example, it may be that Web Warriors is very, very important at your level in war because everyone's gone hard on Web Warriors. And so you got 700k Web Warriors and only a 200k Young Avengers or a 200k Shadowland, and that's fine. But obviously, any team when it's super large compared to the other teams is going to be good. But I'm focusing on how good the teams are when they're all built up to roughly the same level, okay? So let's just get started here. I'm going to talk first about the premier war offense team in the game, and that is Weapon X. Weapon X is at a tier in its own. There are other teams here that can rival the power of Weapon X depending on the situation. So Eternals is really what I have in mind. Eternals, if you put the right third, fourth, and fifth, like some really awesome characters, and you use it against the right counter, can be as good or even better at times than Weapon X. But Weapon X is kind of like a Swiss Army knife. It beats everything for the most part. And so, to me, that is the obvious choice on a tier of its own. And one thing that I think is important is this month we get a new war offense team, and the devs said explicitly that they are not making Dark Hunters better than Weapon X. They're going to be a rung below Weapon X. Now, the devs are wrong. I think they misled me and some of the other envoys about the Young Avengers. But as to this team, I think they're making the statement that now that even as Omega Red comes by for another pass, they want all of you who are unlocking Omega Red now, soon. On the second pass, they want you to enjoy having the top war offense in the game for some period of time. Okay, so what do we have kind of at the top? We really haven't had a change at the very top of the meta. Infinity Watch is still right up there. The Eternals often are tougher than Infinity Watch on war offense or could do more because there's a third, fourth, and fifth evolve. But the reason I have them slightly below Infinity Watch here is, this is sort of the baseline, and it can get a lot better if you're throwing all this other stuff with them. In other words, if you create some sort of super team with the Eternals, then of course, with a bunch of other top characters, and of course they're going to do better. But these are really, this is sort of, these teams sort of determine how potent your war offense is at the high end. In other words, if you place your Infinity Watch in Eternals on defense, you might struggle to, clear depending on what the opponent does. If you bring them all to offense, well, you're going to have a much easier time. And so if you're punching up against a larger alliance, for example, you're going to want to bring all those to war offense. There is not a lot that these teams lose to, and that's why they are so important in war right now. And so that these are still great teams to build and work on. Infinity Watch, obviously, it's starting its decline in the meta, obviously, but it's still very powerful. So some of you are surprised, maybe surprised that I have Shadowland so highly. You've probably seen, though, my recent videos talking about Shadowland, showing off how Shadowland can beat, for example, the new Warriors and huge punch-ups, that sort of thing. This team is, you need the T4s. You need the team built correctly and all of that. But once you have that, and I do have on my Discord, which is linked below, I do have a fantastic an infographic that should help you with that will give you the T4 order and the ISO and all that. But this team is still very good, and it's just because on spawn they get a lot of A lot of speed bar from White Tiger, which is fantastic. She gets speed bar per ally. And then they get 20% additional speed in war offense from in war. They get 20% speed from Daredevil's passive. So definitely a team that has a big speed advantage. And then when your hanger is up and you get you spawn with a deflect, then this character gets 20% speed bar on spawn. So definitely a team that can outspeed a lot of enemies. And so for the time being, this remains very, very important, not only against the new Warriors team that I mentioned, but against a number of other teams. It's a jack of all trades that's really only a half step behind these other teams like Infinity Watch. I hear this one's a new addition now. Okay, X Factor's emo. Why do I have it here? Well, because it counters Young Avengers. I've shown you the video of it. It's been on my channel. And Young Avengers, if you didn't have this counter, would be a very expensive team to counter. But the fact that the devs have put this out there tells you, this team, even though it's a year old, can counter the new hot war defense team. So very important team. And it just shows the staying power of X Factor. I suspect that as we do more and more hybrids, you'll see probably over time, Hex Factor hybrids sticking around for a while just because of how broken the passive of Longshot is. All right, now the next here is, and by the way, people ask, what do you use? Who do you take out for that? You don't need to take out anybody. It's a fifth. He's the fifth character. You're just basically using it instead of some of these other fifths that we were using it before. All right, Secret Avengers Kestrel. This is a very useful counter against a number of teams, but it is definitely not as strong as it used to be. In other words, there was a period of time where it's like Infinity Watch was the top of the meta, and this was the number 2 team. It's not really like that anymore. I think Shadowland is more important, even though it's an older team. This team counters some teams really well, like Uncanny Magic, but it is it's limited. There's a lot of teams that just can't. It's a slower team. It's a team that has a lot of sustainability, but it's not. It doesn't have that speed out of the gate, and so it can just lose to some of the newer teams. You're not going to use this to counter anything up here, and so it's only certain teams. You have to pick your spots. What I still have here, and I mentioned this in the last video, I have put Brotherhood Doom Falcon here on War Offense because I've been seeing more Dooms on offense. If you're punching up 100K or 100 million, 200 million, your alliances, and you're outmatched, you bring all your Dooms to offense, and it gives you another top War Offense team. I mean, that's what I'm seeing people do. And the way that works is that Falcon Special gives speed bar to the team, and the enemy's blinded for a while, and then Blob basically protects Doom and keeps the enemy from targeting Doom, and then Doom just blows everybody up. All right, let's talk about the Ravagers. The Ravagers are performing much better than expected. I think both of these teams here, Ravagers and Uncanny Magic, have kind of risen in my book. Ravagers are a team that, I built partly because I make videos and stuff, and I really like the team. I brought them all up to level 85. I will probably put a 6th Red Star on Star-Lord, T'Challa, and, hopefully eventually I'll get out of some Premium Orb or something enough shards to get him to 7 stars. But, the bottom line here, this is a flexible team that counters a whole wide variety of teams, and including some you might not expect. I had a recent video where, for example, it'd be a Doom Deathpool Brotherhood team. So that's pretty cool. Any team that relies on buffs, for example, that isn't super fast out of the gate, doesn't overwhelm them, gives them time to build their buffs and do their thing, get going, is going to be beaten by the Ravagers. The Uncanny X-Men with magic, that's increasingly important as well, particularly since most players have built up Web Warriors, and they're a very good counter there. This is a team that counters a whole variety of teams, and it's quite good. So this is one that's definitely risen in the rankings just because it's become an important swing team. You can put it, unlike, you can't really put the Secret Avengers on defense because of the summons, but, Uncanny and Ravagers is better on offense. But Uncanny with Magic is a team that can either go on defense or offense, and it's great in both circumstances. Then we kind of go to the next run, Tier 4, Secret Avengers Fury without Kestrel. They're just not as good. They lack a lot of punch without Kestrel. It's a very high sustainability team, but just doesn't kill stuff as much. Definitely a huge rung down without Kestrel. Although sometimes I understand you may need to use Kestrel elsewhere. Weapon X without Omega Red. I just know kind of where this is at because of the brief period of time before Omega Red entered the game and we had some wars with Weapon X without Omega Red. So I could leave this in for those of you who haven't unlocked him. New Warriors I see almost exclusively on defense because it could be a challenge to beat. But it can be used on offense. And if you don't have enough teams, that's what you do. The blinds definitely can really scrub certain enemies. This is X Factor plus a 5th without Zemo. So, whatever. You're throwing in, if you haven't built Young Avengers, you can throw in Squirrel Girl or you might throw in Namor or whatever. They've still beat a lot of stuff, but they've fallen off a bit until the Young Avengers kind of brought them back with this X Factor Zemo thing because X Factor was, used to be would beat the Doom teams, but now the Doom is sometimes on offense and so forth. It's a good team, but it's not, quite what it once was. And then a lot of these teams are really kind of, some of these teams are really falling off. Black Order, less important than it's ever been. Astonishing X-Men, they kill stuff that has summons. They're kind of like the new symbiotes in that regard. Hydra 3.0, this is where you use Baron Zemo with Red Skull and Grenadier, and Grenadier's the highest damage, so then when he dies, he gets rezzed by Red Skull and so forth. It's great to counter Mercs, and it can counter some other teams, but it's becoming less important. You're seeing Zemo get pulled off to make that other team to beat the Young Avengers. This is an old team I keep on just if it helps you at lower levels. I've had some players mention that they use it in Platinum 1 or 2. This is where you put the ability block with Hela or with the Zemo, and then you spread it with Hela. It can work against some older teams. X-Force, some people swear by it. There's people in my alliance who have massive X-Force, G15, everything. I find it falling off. It's really something that requires just a ton of gear on Negasonic and X-23 to get going. Web Warrior's not really that helpful on war offense. They're probably better on defense, even though they're pretty easily countered by Uncanny Magic and a number of other teams. Supernatural, I've moved way up. Now, Supernatural could be way higher, like up in this range against the red opponent, because Elsa hits like a truck now. The issue is just purely that you have to pick your spots with the team. If the opponent has cleanse, they're going to cleanse all your debuffs. Maybe not, but in certain circumstances, like against a team with dodge, they're really good. This is Sinister Six with Doc Ock. If you're going to make that commitment, they're here. Obviously, without him, they're not very good. Brotherhood 2.0. These are some of the teams that are getting, they're not that important, or they're powercraft, they're filler teams, but they might be important at your level. I try to keep this stuff in here just to basically show you, depending on what level of war you're at, how, some of these teams slot in. But what, in terms of where the meta's at, it's definitely revolving around these teams here. Now with X Factor Zemo entering the mix because of Young Avengers. So and Ravagers and Uncanny Magic making more of an impact in the meta than some people thought they would. All right, guys, if you like that video, smash that like button, subscribe to this channel. If you get comments, questions, cheers, put them below, or you can go to my Discord. That's linked below. You can also go to my Twitch stream. That is linked below too.